And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Pardon the lateness of today's broadcast. We are running a little late. And we're starting things out by taking a look at the local yellow dwarf in 171 angstroms, actually 131 angstroms. It's a 48-hour view from the SDO. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho, and we see that Sunspot 2765. The leading umbra has shrunk, but trailing umbrae have grown, causing it to be classified as a beta class sunspot. We'll talk a little bit about sunspot classifications. First, we're going to look at some other stuff. We see a small coronal mass ejection. From the perspective of stereo A, you can see it's right in this area here. Right there, you see a little release there. Not particularly Earth-facing. It looks like it'll miss to the south. Also, we do see Venus exiting the view here on the LASCO C2. Some of that ejecta did appear to come out at a very high speed. And here's the sun looking like it's giving birth to Venus in the LASCO C3 image. And you can see a little bit of ejecta coming out of the sun there. It's not anything significant. It's very diffuse. But we cite all coronal mass ejections because each thing is training for the next thing. Let's talk a little bit about the music that we're playing here. This one is called Settle It. And to anybody who went out and listened to the track we featured yesterday called You, Me, Us, thanks, because you've caused it to get charted. Now You, Me, Us, a track from 2009, has been charted in the top 100 in the classical subgenre. So thanks, everybody. And by the way, we are streaming live to Twitch, thanks to our patrons, especially the real source of funding. Please help smAsho staff to get a raise. She needs one, and we need to go full-time. So please consider supporting the channel and increasing the probability that these videos will keep coming out for free. We're also on Subscribestar, and there are other ways to support us below the video in the links, whether PayPal or whatever. PayPal, Subscribestar, and don't forget to check our websites like smAshomash.org. Quick note about sunspot classification. The reason that sunspot is now a beta class is because it now has two distinct polarities. So we'll talk more about this at a later time. And this is from spaceweather.com. If you just do a search for sunspot magnetic classification, you'll find lots of information about that. And let's go to HelioViewer real quick and take a look at the fields. And I'm going to zoom in for you here. So what we've got here is we've got this leading umbra, which, oops, I always forget that I can't zoom with HelioViewer and use Epic Pen, which is fine. This leading umbra here, it's colored black. That's the South Pole magnetic polarity there, and then trailing it, you see a bunch of white umbrae. This clump of umbrae here. The areas associated with those regions are North Pole polarity, and so that's now a beta class flare. There's the fade to 171 angstroms, and here's the fade to 304 angstroms. Decent sized sunspot there, so a little bit higher probability of solar flares. And don't forget to understand the distinction between a solar flare and a coronal mass ejection. A solar flare is photons. A coronal mass ejection is protons. And let's get off of 131 angstroms and look at 94 angstroms. The other wavelength, which shows you 10 images per minute instead of only 2. So this is a great one to show you some flaring. And we did see a few little B-class flares coming out of that region. It's something to keep an eye on. And this is the 48-hour SDO video, by the way, folks. When I say eye on, well, the pun is intentional. Small active region up here in the north also. So we see three different distinct areas of cycle 25 polarity activity. Here's a one-day view of Sunspot 2765. And that's a custom movie from HelioViewer. Head to helioviewer.org if you want to make your own. It's good times. And we've also got the same view here in 304 angstroms. So this is helium UV emission spectra from ionized helium. And let's look at a whole bunch more data and blast through this video to get it out and view it with our viewers. Again, if you're viewing live, please leave us a comment. You could affect the show that way. KP index has been at 1 for the past 12 hours. 10.7 centimeter radio flux at 71 solar flux units. And let's talk cosmology for a brief moment in this A Cosmology, a segment. Now, please don't freak out. Don't let this induce a flashback. As there's an article on SciTech Daily about black holes, which I always refer to as massive radio sources, because I believe, quote, black holes, end quote, are just simply massive stars, which start to look weird when they get really massive, because they're made out of condensed matter, not gaseous plasma. So, in any case, a crazy, insane story about how black holes could be holograms. Now, yesterday we talked about making it big, and wham. No, not that wham. We're talking about radio telescope. And here is something interesting regarding radio as well. Actually, infrared is the situation here. And what we're looking at is this dark, filamentary looking structure, which has a bunch of red stars inside of it. That really does look like a filament, folks. This is a cold, dusty gas region. And this particular infrared dark cloud is called the snake. So this is the infrared camera on the Spitzer Space Telescope. And so this is interesting, as it could give some insights into stellar activity. So there's probably some reason why we see a whole lot of red stars inside of that infrared dark structure, and lots of blue stars outside of it. Please leave a comment if you have a theory about that. I won't be sharing my theory on it. Not in the daily space weather video. That's for a cosmology segment. And speaking of cosmology, where will you be on June 20th at 5:43? So we're only a couple of weeks here away from the solstice. We'll be streaming live on the smAsho Solstice Stream 2020. So please join us for that. Drink some beers, tell your friends, tell your foes about the solstice stream, which we have scheduled. We'll be streaming live to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. We've also created a smAsho VoIP line. You can call or text us at 610-936-9799. As long as we have access to the internet, we can access the Smash VoIP line. So give us a ring, and we'll be featuring call-ins during the Solstice Stream 2020. Let's take a look at objects in the solar system. There's where they are. Everybody knows Venus is moving in between the Earth and the Sun, or has just moved in between the Earth and the Sun. We've been watching it for days on the LASCO C2 and C3. Here's where things will be in a week. As Earth approaches the Jupiter-Saturn-Mars conjunctive area. And here's what's going on above my head as we actually broadcast when it's light out for once. It's quite incredible. And if you're getting up before dawn, now you're able to see Venus before sunrise, and that will be one heck of a bright object. That object is so bright, the third brightest in the entire sky, second only after the sun and the moon. Venus is so bright that it's done things like stopped trains, because train engineers thought there was another train approaching, but it was just Venus. And there you see a series of B-class flares, the largest one happening 1 minute after midnight on June 5th yesterday. So a couple flares happened. One happened actually just while we were doing show prep there, and it could be rising up for another flare as we speak. Proton flux is flatline, no surprises there. And let's continue on as there's lots more stuff to blast through here. So we see the phi angle shifting around here quite a bit. over the past 24. BTBZ is now diverging, so we see a 4 as far as the BT, and that is nanotesla, and then the BZ is at -4. Phi angle is at 78 degrees. Solar wind density has just come up off the floor a bit here to about 9 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 323 kilometers a second there. Next we'll look at the geospace. And this is the Geospace Magnetosphere movie created by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. If you want to read about it, look up Geospace Magnetosphere movies, scroll down to details, click on the Space Weather Modeling Framework link, and you can read all about how the data is derived. And you can see that small uptick in the solar wind density there, causing a little bit of pressure on the bow shock and magnetotail regions. Here is the ground geospace magnetic perturbations. Here are the ground magnetic perturbations. So looking a little bit closer to home here, during this magnetic excursion, we see some minor perturbations over the Canadian North Pole, less so over the Siberian North Pole, and some minor perturbations over the South Pole as well, which has crept into the southern Indian Ocean, well off of the Antarctic continent, and nowhere near the geographic South Pole. There's the GOES magnetometer. It's looking a little bit smooth. We've got a little bit of missing data here during an ArcJet event at about, 1800 yesterday. And here's the Gong 2 top view ecliptic plane field plot showing us solidly in the North Pole oriented current sheet as I've forecasted. That's shown here in green. And we're expecting to remain in the North Pole oriented current sheet here for a couple more days. And just a quick note here, we can't wait until this gets updated. This is the solon.info solar polar fields diagram. This has not been updated since March. So most of their other stuff has been updated over there recently in June. And it's going to be interesting to see if the North Solar Polar Field has weakened or strengthened. The Gong 2 data makes it look a little bit like it's strengthening, but that could also be the South Solar Polar Field weakening. So we can't wait to see this updated. This is the true way to forecast solar cycles, apparently. And if you want to check that out again, it's on solon.info/solar. Solon.info/solar. You can find links to this, as well as all kinds of other analysis. You can also find this. This is linked on the solar polar fields diagram. And let's look at the line of sight field plot. And you can see some changes in the B field here, shown in blue, largely as a result of those sunspots, the plage in the north and the sunspot in the south. We finally see a small uptick here in relativistic electrons. And it's a very small uptick, but considering how low and flatlined it's been, and what a downtrend we've seen over the past about 8 months, any rise in the electron flux is noticeable. So here you can see a little bit of a rise there also. That's the 3-day plot. The GOES 16 greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volt electron flux. You can see a little bit of electron content here showing up just north of the South Atlantic anomaly there. But we don't expect very many GPS errors today. Have fun on your bike ride. It'll probably be logged without massive errors, showing you at an average speed of 80 miles an hour. Yes, I've done bike rides that have insane average speeds as a result of GPS errors. Check out our Instagram page, instagram.com/smAshomash. It's all documented. Next, looking at 6 hours of the ionosphere to see a slightly wobbly ionosphere here, not super anomalous. Let's bring up the last image. That's 6 hours of data we just showed you there, and the last image coming in at 10:15 UT, looking pretty normal. We did see one odd earthquake very far north northwest of Svalbard. Let's go over the last 24 hours. Lots of deep quakes kicking off also, including this 4.4 at Chile. There's a 4.5 at Tonga. That one coming in about an hour after, about a half an hour after the deep quake at Chile. That Tongan quake, 4.5 magnitude at 184 kilometers depth. And there's that weird quake. Here's the location of that one, very far north, northwest of Svalbard. Someplace I'd like to visit. And I'm going to zoom the map into the normal zoom now, since that's the only quake that happened that far north. I apologize for the scrolling. And just going up the list here, we see a significant number of quakes in the lower 48 in the U.S. Here's a deep quake at Japan. It's a 4.3 magnitude at 149 kilometers depth. Another deep quake at Chile at the same place as the last one we reported. That one came in at 1:21 UT Universal Time today. 4.0 magnitude, 139 kilometers depth. A very deep quake at Tonga coming in about 3 hours ago at 7:22 Universal Time. It's a 5.0 magnitude at 576 kilometers in the deep quake capital of the world. Next volcanoes, here on volcanodiscovery.com. To see Mount Aso is erupting, flight level 6,000 there. Sakurajima back to erupting, flight level 9,000 there. Revenador exploding, flight level 14,000 there. Sabancaya exploding. Sporadic puff emissions have produced a 24,000-foot ash plume, an indication that today is not the day to pole vault the caldera at Sabancaya. Let's talk about, let's talk about COVIDiots. Nancy Pelosi, wearing her rhinestone-studded COVIDiot mask, stating, "Real men wear masks, real stupid ones." This CNBC article is not going to be covered in any more depth than that, because wearing masks is totally ineffective, especially on people who aren't trained to use personal protective equipment. It's total nonsense. Let's scroll the CNBC markets page real quick to see. It looks like a sell-off in U.S. bonds, as the job numbers were terrible but didn't look that bad. I want to note one other thing here. Saudi Arabia and Russia push for an extension to output cuts, with OPEC Plus meeting this weekend still possible. Well, guess what? Do you remember the massive oil glut that happened when oil was negative $45 a barrel? Yeah, oil cost, you were being paid $45 to take a barrel of oil. Guess what that was caused by? It was caused by Saudi Arabia and Russia intentionally increasing oil output. It was entirely designed to hurt the U.S. economy, because what it did is it cut down oil shale drilling. Because the U.S. for a while there was the largest producer of oil in the whole world, and Saudi Arabia and Russia intentionally put an end to that by creating a glut in the oil market. If you weren't aware, I don't know what to tell you. We covered it when it happened. And sometimes being way ahead of everybody else when it comes to news stories makes you sound incoherent. And this is why people often don't believe what I say. So you know what? You don't want to believe what I say? Good luck. Silver is up to $17.57 an ounce. Here's the one-year chart of silver, coming off of its highs where it was all the way up to, 1850 about. So that's the current state of affairs with silver. Let's look at gold also, since we're expecting about a 10% rate of inflation now this year, thanks to all of the helicopter money. Helicopter money used to be a term that we didn't think was going to be a real term until the U.S. government just started writing people checks because of its ineffective and utterly ridiculous response to COVID-19. So continue to watch the government's utterly idiotic and ridiculous response to riots and racism and police brutality, which are real things, by the way. But Here's a news flash. Don't be a complete COVIDiot and think that you've somehow cured racism by posting a black screen on social media. And thumbs down to mankind for responding in such a cockamamie, ridiculous, and idiotic fashion to, I guess, everything nowadays. This is the new normal. Overreact and do utterly ineffective things in response to a crisis or alleged crisis. Have you noticed that your governor is completely ineffective and perhaps a complete COVIDiot? Do you have COVIDiots running your state? Has your government been doing things that are 100%
ineffective
to actual crises as well as alleged crises? Well, I've seen quite a bit of it. So please tell your friends, your foes, your legislators, and especially the executive branch to quit doing such ridiculous and
ineffective
things. Earn your paycheck. It's being paid for by taxpayer dollars. Well, it looks like the lockdowns have been ineffective on reducing the planet's CO2. Since the highest level ever recorded at Mauna Loa at, oh my God, 417 parts per million. Oh my God! Hey, all right, that's better. So now, listen, folks. Carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. Carbon dioxide is the most important trace gas in the world. Without carbon dioxide, you'd be dead, and it has nothing to do with climate. It's at the bottom of every food chain, as everything from cyanobacteria to a cow require carbon dioxide, because, see, cows eat grass optimally, not other cows and feathers and stupid idiotic things that factory farms feed cows, but they're supposed to eat grass. And by the way, plants grow optimally at about 1,200 parts per million, so we implore you to go out and burn a tire today, because carbon dioxide has nothing to do with climate change, except that when the planet gets warmer, about 800 years later, we see more carbon dioxide. Because guess what? Plants don't just sequester carbon. They have to burn the glucose that they create through photosynthesis, and when they do that, they do the same thing you do. It's called cellular respiration, and guess what they do when they cellularly respire? The same thing you do. They exhale carbon dioxide. Have you been to smashomash.com/forum? We're up to 1,235 users now, which is incredible. We've nearly tripled the amount of users and gotten over 3,000 views just since yesterday. There are also links there. Check out smashomash.org, etc. And Smash staff, get on it and fix up the page, spruce up the page. Do whatever you said you were going to do yesterday. Here's the weather.gov map, and we've got tropical storm and hurricane type issuances around the Gulf states, as well as, what are those orange areas? Some heat advisories there in the south central U.S., some high-speed wind warnings, and so on. Let's look at wind. Here are the jet streams. We've got some serious bends there over central Australia, as well as a jumbled up set of jet streams on both hemispheres. And check it out. The wind at the equator here is blowing the wrong direction. It's straight up going east to west. Can you see that? You see that? You think I'm kidding? Next, looking at the western world's jet streams. And check out that anticyclone over South America. That is incredible. Wow. Let's take a look at the upper level there. There's 70,000 feet. And there's 10 hectopascal, so no reference there. Here's the wind on the surface, and wow, that is a full spectrum anticyclone right on top of the South Atlantic anomaly. Check it out. Yowzers. Have you had your protons today? All right. Anyway, there's the western jets. Extreme meridional jet stream flow. Check it out. Here we have air going straight south. Here we have air going straight north. That's going to cause sudden melting in the Rockies, by the way, increasing their hydrologic output for floods. Next, looking at windy.com. They've got a great mobile app. We're going to advance at 24 hours via the GFS forecast. These are pressure cells. And look at that anomaly there over South America. Here's where things will be at noontime, my time tomorrow. I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, if you're wondering. And thanks for everybody who tunes in and tells us where you're located. If you've got requests on something, a weather thing or something like that, drop us a line. There are many ways to reach us. I just want to zoom in on this area here over South America. Check it out. Lots of fires burning allegedly over South America as well. Check it out. Brazil is pretty much on fire right now. And there you can see that anticyclone. It's quite odd. It's associated with a low pressure zone. And let's move on. Give me back control, Windy. Here are the water vapor maps for Europe and Africa. Please leave a comment if you're viewing from the dark continent. Here are the water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. The Western Pacific Rim, an amazing place. Please leave a comment if you want to go to American Samoa for a New Year's celebration. Probably not this year. Maybe in 2021 we'll make it a thing. Lots of lightning strikes. Shout out to David Dubine for covering the insane number of lightning strikes seen in Washington. They got over half of a year's lightning strikes in one storm. Let's zoom in on the U.S. as we like to shout out to who's getting the lightning. Let's see. Where are the most people being exposed? By the way, check out lightningmaps.org next time you hear thunder. You could convince your friends and foes that you're actually Thor or perhaps the Norse god Odin. Hey, Cedar Rapids, you're out of the crosshairs, but go outside and look to the east-northeast, and you may see some lightning. It could be a delightful light show. Lots of rain across the U.S. right now as there's a big atmospheric pond out there in the west. And shout out to Floridians, such as Mothra, getting plastered with rain all along the northern Gulf Coast. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. And we don't have enough data to show you the visible right now, even though it's light out. It'll only be a few frames. We like to use the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite's shortwave spectra in order to see clouds at nighttime. There's what's going on there. Here's what's going on in the water vapor. So there's water vapor, and there's clouds. Note how they look very differently. It's because the water vapor map shows you water vapor that is not condensed onto a cloud. The water can't hide from this satellite, so this gives you great insight into what's going on. And you can see this is basically a wall of air right here. This dry mass of air is kind of going to cause this atmospheric pond to stagnate. That's why I keep calling it an atmospheric pond. Don't listen to stupid YouTube channels that don't know anything about atmospheric physics and want to freak you out because there's an atmospheric river. Oh my God! Hey Smash Team, thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for some bonus features. Here are those ombre that I was telling you about. And you can see that we've got the main sunspot here. And now we've got significant ombre back here. These ones here are most certainly opposite polarity to the leading one, and that's what makes it a beta class sunspot. We won't get into the other classifications because it gets very complicated and very, very waist deep in the weeds very quickly. We've got some more activity here also. There's some little bit of magnetic organization down here, a little magnetic organization up here. Here's a close-up of the fields. And so, once again, you can see that these ombre here are opposite polarity. So that increases the chances of flaring a little bit. And there's a little bit of magnetic mixing happening here at the front. So that's something to keep an eye on. And let's take a look at one more view here. How about the 335 angstroms? The 48-hour SDO video. It's the soothing blue color one. And I don't remember what the emission spectra are for this. I believe it's ionized iron. But I'm not going to look it up because I'm going to just vanish. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink it. If you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. And may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiocy absent from all mankind.